Now we start with the first meditation. It's going to be a guided meditation. And the very first thing to consider is your own sitting arrangement. So you need to be as comfortable as you can be. So sometimes an extra cushion under the backside is helpful, or something under the knee that helps to support you. Or if this really isn't a very comfortable posture, you can use a chair. There are about 3 or 4 chairs at the back. So you have to decide what works in terms of your own comfort. So it's for you to make that choice. I can't tell you what's comfortable for you. I've got bad knees, so I don't sit cross-legged anymore. But the ideal position is to sit with a cushion or 2 under the backside, legs crossed, hands in the lap. This helps to give you an erect posture. We can't all do that. So anyway, bringing attention, if you've established a sitting arrangement that works, that is comfortable, and you're sure about that, are you? You can go get an extra cushion if you want, or help yourself to a cushion beside you. Having established a sitting arrangement that does work for you, then you bring attention now to the uprightness of the body. So this is quite important for the success of the meditation. We want a free flow of energy, if possible, and it also helps to maintain wakefulness. We're trying not to go to sleep. So bringing attention now to the uprightness of the body, you can imagine, if you like, that you're a puppet and there is a string attached to the top of your head, and there's someone gently pulling on that string. So you might help you to become a little bit more upright without becoming too tense or taut. And then when you're upright, then you allow the shoulders to hang from the spine, and you allow the arms to hang from the shoulders. And normally we would cross one hand on top of the other in the lap with the thumbs touching. And then usually we'd shut the eyes, but if you want them open, that's okay. So at the very start of this retreat, I like people to initially take the time just to tune in for a few moments to the silence, because here at Sunyata, in the middle of the Irish countryside, there is a lot of silence. So just listening to the silence for a few seconds. So maybe when I say that, you're not quite sure what I mean. But the silence is the ground in which the sound occurs. So if we had a continuous pneumatic drill going outside, you wouldn't hear much apart from that. But there is silence, and you can hear sounds arise and pass away. All within the context of the silence. So we live in quite a noisy world these days. Sometimes it's very restful, calming. Even in the city center or in a flat in an urban environment, to come back to the silence. So now switching attention now towards the body. and asking you to try to identify what's the most prominent sensation, physical sensation of the moment for you. So it might be the contact of the backside on the seat or cushion, it might be the feet or leg on the floor, or it might be heat in the body, or some kind of other sensation, itch, or contact of the clothes on the skin. There might be some kind of vibration somewhere. But anyway, trying to choose which is the most prominent sensation at this moment, and just focusing your attention on that. It might be even already discomfort somewhere in the knees or the hips or somewhere else. Choosing on that, the most prominent sensation, and focusing on that. You may notice that perhaps the attention can't rest, or doesn't rest on one sensation, but tends to jump around a bit. We're starting to look into sensation in a way we don't normally bother to do. So it's very nice for the body if we pay it some attention in a caring way, if you like. One way to do this is to be with the sensations of the body. So I like to sweep through the body, beginning at the feet. So like going to the right foot. So bringing attention into the right foot, whatever you can find there by way of sensation. You might like to go through each toe, just registering what you can find. You're just noting the sensations, that's all. You might like to notice the top of the foot, the sole. And then the heel. And then moving attention into the ankle. What can you find there? And now bringing attention up through the lower leg on the right hand side, the right lower leg. So just noticing as we go up that leg, any sensation we find. And then coming into the right knee, again, as with the ankle, this is a joint. So usually there's sensation in the joints of some sort. And then from the knee, bringing attention up through the thigh, the upper leg, towards the pelvic area. Again, noting sensation as you go. Now moving attention onto the left foot, so we do the same with that, going through each of the toes, noting the sensation, if there is any. And then top of the foot, sole, and then the heel. Moving into the ankle now, focusing on the ankle. Any sensation, moving up through the lower leg, bit by bit, acknowledging any sensation you find, noting it, coming into the left knee. Whatever you find there, noting that, coming up through the upper leg, the thigh. Again, noting sensation. Then we come to the pelvic area. So first of all, obvious sensations like the buttocks on the seat or cushion, any pressure. Then going to the area of the anus, And then the genitals, just checking out any sensations there. And then moving attention into the lower back, so the lumbar region. We're focusing on that now. Any sensation. And then slowly bringing attention up the spine. Any sensation. Then we notice if there is any sensation in the shoulder blades. Now moving attention to the front of the body. So first of all, to the lower stomach, lower part of the stomach. Any sensation up through the stomach area. Whatever you can find, noting it, and then coming into the chest. So is the chest tight or is it relaxed and open? How does that feel? What are the sensations there? And then bringing attention to the right hand side of the body. So going to the thigh and bringing attention up through the waist area and the side of the body as far as the armpit. Usually there's quite a lot of sensation in the armpit, I find. Noting as we go. Now doing the same on the left-hand side. So starting at the thigh, coming up through the waist and the side of the body as far as the armpit. Now we move attention onto the right shoulder. So first of all, exploring the shoulder for any sensation. Now we start to move attention down through the right arm. So again, bit by bit, we go down the upper arm towards the elbow, noting as we go. Now we go into the elbow, another joint, checking out the sensations there. Now coming down through the forearm, little by little, again checking out the sensations, noting each sensation that we find. Now coming into the wrist, there may be some tightness or sensation there, or maybe not very much. And then into the right hand. So we're going to the back of the hand, and then the palm. Often the palm is very noticeable. There's some tingling or vibration there. Heat, maybe. And then going through each one of the fingers. So starting with the little finger, noting each part of the finger, noting the tip of the finger for the sensations. And then going through each one of the fingers, being with each finger, noting the sensation. And then the thumb. So we've been through that, and then we start to bring attention back through the right hand towards the wrist, noting as we go. Into the wrist itself. Once again, coming up through the forearm, noting as we go. Into the elbow. And coming up through the upper arm. noting as we go, and then back to the right shoulder. And now we move attention from the right to the left shoulder. So going into that shoulder, and we note any sensation there. And then begin to come down through the left arm, so upper arm, and you find that sensation. And then into the elbow, exploring that. And then coming down through the forearm, little by little, noting as we go. Into the wrist. Back of the left hand, what's that like? Palm. Feeling that out. And then going through each one of the fingers again, on the left side. Each part of the finger. And then we go to the thumb. Now we also note where the hands may be in contact. The pressure, the touch, the heat, whatever. And we come back through the left hand. Noting as we go. Back to the wrist. And now moving up, attention up through the forearm, towards the elbow, into the elbow itself. Back up through the upper arm, noting as we go. And back to the left shoulder. And now we take the whole area of the shoulders into our attention. So quite a wide area. Being with the sensations in the shoulders. And gradually we start to narrow the attention down towards the base of the neck. So we approach this area where the neck and the shoulders meet. And often that's an area where we store up tension or stress. So what we do is we focus on that area, any tightness or tautness that you find, and in the light of your attention, allow it to relax. So we're focusing on that, any tension in that area, being with it, allowing it to relax. And then moving the attention to the back of the neck, sides of the neck. Again, it can be quite rigid here or tense. So focusing on this area, allowing that to relax as well. Being with the sensations. And then moving attention now to the back of the head and the sides of the head, just noting as we go in the sensation. And then moving on to the top of the head, the crown of the head. So any sensation there. And then over into the forehead. This is where we tend to have the worry marks, the frowns, and so on. So just letting attention rest on the forehead, allowing it to relax out a bit. And now moving attention to the eyes. So first of all, the right eye, going around the rim of the eye, noting any sensation. being with it. And then to the left eye, again, going around the rim of the eye, noting any sensation. Now moving attention down through the cheek, each side of the face. Again, we note any sensation. And we come towards the jaw. And then we rest attention on the jaw, because this is can be another area of stored up tension or stress. Being with the jaw, any sensation in the jaw, just being with it fully. Now we start to move attention towards the mouth, the area of the mouth. Going into the lips first of all, so upper lip, lower lip, any sensation. Going further inside to the teeth and gums, so putting attention onto the teeth, upper teeth, lower teeth, and the gums. Any sensation. Going further into the mouth, so we go to the tongue and the palate. Again, what's the sensation there? Dry, wet, or whatever. Just exploring for the sensation, noting the sensation. And then further down into the throat. So, how is the throat? What's the sensation there? And then slowly coming back through the mouth. So, first of all, the tongue and palate. Then the teeth. Finally, the lips again. So we've been sweeping through the body from the feet upwards to the head. And now you can do it in the reverse direction. But I'll let you do that on your own. So starting at the crown of the head, going down through the body, noting any sensation you find as far as the sole of each foot. I'll just be quiet for a few seconds. You've been sweeping through the body in one direction and back in the other. This is quite a useful meditation object. It's very obvious. It's easy to direct attention towards the body. For most people anyway. And it's good for grounding attention on if we're very distracted or overwrought or the mind is spinning. We can bring it back, our attention back onto the sensations in the body. And now we're going to gradually move attention towards the breathing. So we've explored the sensation in the body. Now we go towards something a bit more subtle, which is the breath. So the in and out breathing, in Pali it's called Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. And we can look at the breath, just beneath the nostrils or the upper lip, at the upper lip. We can look at it at the abdomen rising and falling. We can look at it maybe even at the chest rising and falling, or the whole breath as it comes in and goes out. So it really is for you to decide how you want to look at the breath. I won't try to dictate that, but try to select one of these aspects. And at least for this session, stick with that. So beginning to look at the breath now. So it might seem very nebulous, something we wouldn't even bother to notice normally unless we're under stress. So what is the breath? The breath coming in and going out. We're not trying to control the breath or guide it or stop it or start it. We're just observing how the breath is as it comes and goes naturally. You may begin to identify that there's a beginning of the in-breath and end to the in-breath, a beginning of an out-breath and an end to the out-breath. Being very observant, we're not trying to control things. We're being patient. So the beginning of the in-breath to the end of the in-breath, the beginning of the out-breath to the end of the out-breath. So we can start to notice, is the breath long or short? So we're cultivating an interest in the breath. It's not exactly a stimulating or fascinating object, but we can promote or cultivate interest in the breath. So we start to switch towards the breathing. You notice it with the breath. It can be quite subtle sometimes, but we can still notice. And as we switch to this very subtle object, so it's easy for the mind to wander into some other area. It could be thinking or complaining. Maybe the mind is already commenting, making commentary on what's going on. Or it could be that we've got pain arising in the body. So pain is a whole new area, if you like, for some people. So we try not to automatically react to pain if possible. What we try to do is, first of all, concentrate on the breathing. If we can do that successfully, the pain will be held at bay. Or if we can't do that, we switch attention onto the pain itself. And we open up to the pain, we go into the pain, we investigate, rather than just react to it. But the basic object we're with is the breathing, coming in, going out. And as we watch the subtle objects, so the mind can make its comments, opinions arise, feelings of inadequacy. And as the mind wanders away into thinking or to other aspects of the body, we bring it back. We just patiently note where the mind goes to, and we bring it back onto the breath. So actually trying to make the breath an item of interest. How is the breath now? Is it right? Sometimes it's long or slow, sometimes it's fast, so long or short, sometimes it's fast or slow. Sometimes it's very obvious, and other times it's very subtle. So all kinds of emotions can arise in the course of this practice. As we note where the mind has gone to, then we just gently come back onto the breath. So memories come up, or planning for tomorrow or whatever. We note these things, we come back onto the breath. And now just for a few seconds, let's put the breath down and go to the background mood of the mind right now. So what's the mood of the mind at the moment? Are you feeling at peace, relaxed, or there's a lot of tension, or even anger, or whatever, impatience, frustration, or whatever? You just note the mood. You're not trying to change the mood, but just noting it, coming back then onto the breath. trying to be with the breath as it comes in, as it goes out. And see the breath. So as we keep watching the breathing, you may find that there's some settling of the mind, change in how we feel on some level. Or there may just be a sense of frustration or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But we note these things, we keep coming back to the breath. Feel free to relax, and if you want to move the limbs or whatever, just to be more at ease, it's fine. Well done. If you haven't practiced much before, you maybe found that difficult, but we sat through something like 40 minutes of practice, which is really good. So we're working with the body, working with the breath. So one is more refined than the other. And then beyond that, we work with the mind. So we look into the mind as well. So these kind of working at these different areas. Sometimes we can work easily with the breath. And sometimes it's very difficult. And if the mind is very sort of agitated, or we're having sort of powerful emotions, maybe we can't focus on the breath so easily. But then we can go down to the body, look at the body, ground attention on the body. And then maybe come back towards the breath after that. Then we're always in the end coming back to the mind itself. So the mind is our sort of main field of attention in the end. But I like to build up through the body and the breath first, and then have glimpses of the mind beyond that. So we sat through something, it might have been difficult. Are there any questions or points anyone wants to make, or anything they want to share?
You have a very soothing voice.
Hello?
A very soothing voice.
So just a few things to consider before we go on. What I'm planning to do in a minute is to take the refuges and precepts. So for you, some of you, this may be completely new, others may be a bit more familiar with what this means. But first of all, let's just consider again what you're bringing to the retreat. So you may be, the mind may be caught up, you know, all the busyness, all the things that you have to get done, the usual planning and the usual boxes that you have to tick off. So this is what you may be bringing with you. I'm not saying you are, but you might be. So then the tendency is the mind goes into these habitual patterns. It goes down these tracks that it's very familiar with. And the whole point of a retreat like this is to consciously set this down. We're not going to allow the mind just to go down these tracks, endlessly repeating the same old stuff and getting lost in worry or whatever, if we possibly can. But we want to consciously put down some of these burdens that we may be carrying and make the effort to come into this moment. So this is what practice is all about, coming into this moment, recognizing now what's happening now, rather than dwelling in the past or planning for the future, solving all your problems. Some people may come into the meditation room wanting to solve their problems, but this is not so helpful to you. You may not believe this, but coming into the moment is actually the most useful thing you can do. So being in this moment, fully aware, fully awake, and fully alive, because half the time, or maybe perhaps more than half the time, we're not really with this present moment. We're either living in the past or the future, or trying to distract ourselves through the entertainment or technology or whatever. We want to get away from this moment. But here in practice, in the meditation hall, we come into this moment. We're consciously making that effort. Okay, right here, right now, what's going on? Whether it's the body, the breath, or what's going on in the mind. So that's why we try to seek to minimize the distractions. So you haven't got TV, radio, internet, well, I assume you haven't. And we give those things up for these 3 days. It's only 3 days. And then you can go back to all of it if you want. The other thing we give up is just, going into speech the whole time, interacting with each other. So we're going to give that up. That doesn't mean to say total silence. If you need to ask someone for the butter or pass the knife or fork or where shall I go next, or that kind of conversation is perfectly acceptable, but it's just not to get into chatter and sort of how are you and all this, but just to put that down as well. So we're sitting together mainly in silence, and we're moving around the site mainly in silence. And that will help the practice. But there obviously will be periods of talking. So the program is that we, from tomorrow, we will start at 6 o'clock in the morning. So for some of you, this will be an early rising program. So getting up around 5:30, being here for 6 o'clock, and we do an early puja. and then we sit again together. So now I'd like to consider these refuges and precepts for anyone who may be unfamiliar with them. So if you've got a book, you turn towards the back. And what we're going to be doing is taking 3 refuges and 8 precepts. So it's on page 131. So before we go into the formal bit, I'd just like to take you through the precepts, and so you're fully aware. So Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, that's where we go for refuge. Buddha means obviously the teacher, the founder of the religion. Dhamma means the teaching he gave, he offered to us. And Sangha is that community of people who carry forward those teachings or try to embody those teachings. But also there's a more esoteric meaning. So Buddha is the wisdom, that capacity to know within you, to know the truth. That's the internal meaning of Buddha, wisdom. Dhamma is the way of nature, or we could say the way of truth. And Sangha is living together harmoniously. So that means being, kind and considerate to each other, taking refuge in that ability to live together harmoniously in a virtuous way. So, coming now to the precepts themselves, if you look at page 134, the first one is about not taking life of any living creature. So, if you feel probably you won't be out to kill anything while you're here, but if you see a bug, in front of you, please don't step on it if you can help it. It also means it's about not harming a living creature, so not intentionally harming, so not pinching the cat or the dog or kicking it or whatever. So we give up that sort of killing and harming aspect of human behavior. Number 2 is about not taking that which is not given. So that basically is not stealing or purloining from another person. So being considerate around other people's possessions. So this promotes trust between people. The third one is about sexuality. So we say in the 8 precepts to refrain from any intentional sexual activity. So we're not out to be glamorous, sparkling, or fascinating, or alluring for members of the opposite sex. We're putting that down for the moment. Number 4, I undertake the precept to refrain from lying. So that's obviously not telling the truth. Often the speech precept is about other things as well, but the main thing here is to try to observe noble silence, just like I mentioned, and just speak when you need to. So this way you're not going to get lost in conversation and chatter and gossip, but more bringing the attention inwards to what the heart is doing. So you're waking up to what's going on inside, rather than being lost in the externals. Number 5 is about refraining from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs, which lead to carelessness. So presumably no one's brought any whiskey or gin with them, I hope, anyway. And we just try and stay awake and, consciously aware of what's going on, rather than dulling out on drink or drugs. The 6th one is about eating at inappropriate times. So this is a kind of monastic thing, but on these retreats, we do ask you to eat between dawn and 1 o'clock. And then you may have some allowables after that, but not what we call food. So the managers will guide you on that one. The 7th one is about refraining from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. So that means not getting lost in media, watching or listening to media, and obviously keeping things simple, not lots of makeup or jewelry or whatever. And good loose clothing, that's quite useful to have on a retreat. If your clothing's tight, that's not so good for you in terms of sitting comfortably. And then the last one, I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place. It sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? It's still odd to me, but what it means is not sort of lolling around and dulling out and spending time, in that kind of a way, but being awake and alert, and that's how we take it anyway. Not just indulging in sleep. That doesn't mean to say you can't have a little, ziz if you like it after the meal or whatever. That's fine, but not lolling around all day in bed, being awake and alert. So those are the 8 precepts. Before we go to them, has anyone any questions? You're very welcome to ask. So I'd like to say people on online retreatants, there are 5 people online, but normally I would say if I was teaching online that you can stay on 5 precepts because you're at home, there must be many temptations, but you're now part of us. You've joined the Sunyata retreat. So I can't put people on the retreat on 8 precepts and people at home on 5. It doesn't feel right. So I ask you to join us and take the 8 precepts and try to observe them at home. Difficult though it may be, but that's what I'm asking you to do. Any questions? Okay, so is anyone able to request the precepts? It's on page 131. Does anyone feel confident enough to say the Pali? Anyone? Nobody? Nobody? Okay, well, I'll say it and you say it after me as a group, okay? Normally one person would make this request. Right, so are you ready? Mayang Bante Tisaranena Saha Atta Silani Yajama Dutiyampi Mayang Bante Tisaranena Saha Atta Silani Yajama Tatiyampi Mayang Bante Tisaranena Saha Atta Silani Yajama. Very good, very good. So mostly we do this in Pali. So I will obviously be giving you the Pali, but there's a point where we come to both Pali and English, and that will be when we take the precepts themselves, the 8 precepts. But first of all, we just do these refuges in Pali. So I'm going to say this Namo Tassa on page 133. And if you just listen to me as I say it 3 times, and then when I've finished, then you as a group say it 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo. Very good. So now we come to the refuges themselves, and in this Buddhism we do everything 3 times just to make sure we've made the point. So I'll say a line, 1 line, and then you repeat that line when I've finished. Buddhang saranam gacchami. Dhammang saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. So now I say this, tisarana gamanan nititam, and you say amabante. Amabante. You say it. Brilliant. It means yes. So now we come to the precepts themselves. So first of all, a line in Pali and then a line in English on this one. So number one, Panatipata Virahmani Sikhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature. Number two, Adina Dana Virahmani Sikhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given. Abrahmacharya Virahmani Sikhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from any intentional sexual activity. Number four, Musavada Virahmani Sikhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying. Number five, Sura Mirya Maja Tamatatana Virahmani Sikhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness. Number six, Vikala Pojana Virahmani Sikhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times. Now we come to the worst or the most difficult one. It's a long one, so perhaps we'll do it in 3 sections. Otherwise, it would get a little bit ragged. Naja Gita Wadita Visuka Dasana. Mala Gandha Vilepana Tarana Mandana Vibhusana Tana. Virahmani Sikhapadang Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. Number 8. Uja sayana maha sayana veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place. Very good indeed. So now we come to a certain line about taking the precepts. So I say this once, and then you as a group, you say it 3 times. So I say it, and then you say it 3 times. Imani atta sikkhapadani samadhiyami. And then I finish off with this little saying, Imani atta sikkhapadani silena sugating yanti silena poga sampada silena nibhuting yanti tasama silang visotaye. And you say sadhu 3 times. Very good. Excellent. So those are the 3 refuges and the 8 precepts that you're on for 3 days until 3 o'clock on. Give them a try. So we're getting towards the end of this particular session. Are there any questions or anything anyone would like to say, anything you would like to share or comment about? You're very welcome if you have anything you want to say.
Could you just explain the Buddha, the Dharma, and the 3 words that you said? It was wisdom and 3 things.
Right, the internal
Yes.
meaning. So Buddha is that inside of you which can know the truth from falsehood, that which knows. So yeah, the capacity for wisdom that we are assured every human being has, if they cultivate it. Dhamma is the truth itself, or perhaps the way of nature, how things really are, how things really do work. Because we project many things onto life as human beings. And if we're careful and notice, we'll see that often our projections aren't so accurate. It's more like we project onto life what we want it to be like, what it should be like from our point of view. But Dhamma is about the way it really is, if you like. And the third one, Sangha, as I say, it's about the community of monks, nuns, and lay people who go forward, but carry the teaching forward, sorry. But it's also about how to live together harmoniously, we would say virtuously, just by following precepts and so forth, by not seeking to hurt or cheat each other, we can live together harmoniously. So I often say, I have school groups who come around Anapanasati Monastery, and I ask them to think about if they were on a desert island, just the school kids. How would it be if you all broke the precepts? How would you feel about each other? It would be a nightmare. But if you kept the precepts on this desert island, how would it be? It would be at least tolerable. It might even be quite pleasant. So it comes back to each one of us. For example, the speech precept, it's not just lying, it's also about harsh speech, running people down behind their backs, and just idle gossip. That's also included in that. So if we weren't to do these things, if we weren't to use speech in a harmful way, wouldn't life be easier? Or we can think about times when people have hurt us. They've said things that go right in here and cause us tremendous anguish sometimes. But that power is also in our hands. We can use speech in a supportive, kind, and gentle way, if you like, or we can use it to destroy someone. So we start to take responsibility with the precepts helping us. We start to take responsibility for our actions, and it's not like it's not like you will go to hell if you fail to keep the precept. It's more like, if you imagine this, each training precept is like a kind of, you're raising the game. You're trying to improve within that training precept, trying to make it, get a little bit more wholesome, a little bit more skillful in how you behave in those precepts. And then you're going the right direction, So that's the spirit it's offered in. So I hope it doesn't feel too oppressive to you. So, any other questions or points? Yes.
Would you have any guidance around remaining kind of in the moment when we're not in the formal practice?
Right, thank you. That's a very useful question. So, overall, we're here to cultivate more mindfulness and awareness in what we're doing and how we affect each other, of course. So rather than just mindlessly going about our business out to get what I want now, we take account of the other people, and we try and, for example, walking gently or quietly, not banging doors, but being mindful of what we're doing. Perhaps not being in the bathroom too long if someone else needs it, that kind of thing, So that's just everyday courtesy, isn't it, I suppose? But being fully aware of what we're doing as much as we possibly can. So going through a door, how do you open the door? How do you close it? How do you go down the steps? When you go into the other building and you've got the stairs there, it's quite difficult actually sometimes. But anyway, how do you walk up those stairs? And when you're queuing for food, can you do it mindfully? Or are you just intent on getting the food and consuming it? So I'll be dropping little reminders like this, but the more you can bring in that mindfulness in everyday activity, this is a fantastic help to your formal meditation and vice versa. So it's like, as I say, it's about being in this moment, waking up to this moment. Okay, what's going on here right now? What's the wisest, most skillful thing I can do in this moment? How can I help the situation? How can I be supportive of others? And by being supportive of others, you support yourself. You really do cultivate what we call barami, virtues, good qualities. And these things are, in the end, the only things that the only wealth you really have, because everything else drops away. But the barami that you create is what will go with you. Anyway, use it as an experiment or what's the word? Laboratory. Try it out. See if you can cultivate the mindfulness as you go through this particular retreat. Any other questions? Okay, I think you've done very well. It's probably quite a grueling session for some people if you come a long way. But let's close with a chant. So it's the Buddhist words on loving kindness in English. Another page. So it's page 37. We'll chant it in English. It's a good way of just focusing attention and on things which are quite useful to contemplate. I'll do the introductory beginning, and then if you can join in as much as you can. Now let us chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. Let none receive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. That is from the Buddhist sutta, that's the dialogue or discourse, sorry, that the Buddha gave on loving kindness. So it's the English translation of that sutta he gave. So now we're going to close with the closing homage, which will be on page 29. So just to remind you, try to stay silent if you can, try to stay mindful. If you want to come in here early tomorrow for practice, you're very welcome to do that, or stay a bit later, but just be very considerate of other people as you go into the dorms or whatever. And we'll be meeting together at 6 o'clock tomorrow. So we'll meet then. Do some bowing again on break. So closing homage on page 29. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, I render homage to the Buddha, the blessed one. The teachings so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to them. So now I'd just like to do 3 more bows. This is to teachers from the past who may have helped you, or any other teachers you may revere. I would always think of Ajahn Chah and force them to do it at this time. So just 3 more bows. Very good night. See you in the morning.